Disappointment reveals more about human nature than loyalty ever will. Carl Jung. You are swallowing glass to keep others from bleeding, disguising your slow psychological suicide as generosity. But your endless empathy is actually a covert trauma response. Keep watching, because the terrifying truth behind your perfect smile will shatter everything you thought you knew. The illusion of the martyr, awakening from the nightmare of unrequited sacrifice. Sit down. Drop the agonizingly fake smile you use to shield yourself from the world. You are suffocating, aren't you? Bleeding out in plain sight while pretending everything is perfectly fine. In this absolute silence, there is no place to hide, no masks left to wear, and nowhere left to run. I am not here to judge you, but I see right through the hollow cavity in your chest. I see the invisible fractures of a human being who has spent an entire lifetime playing the pathetic role of the good person, the one who swallows glass just to keep others from bleeding, the one who constantly steps back into the shadows so that someone else can stand in the light. The inner multiverse warmly welcomes you to a space where comforting lies come to die and brutal truths are born. If this raw reflection resonates with the quiet agony in your soul, please subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you these unfiltered awakenings. Now, look at your profound exhaustion. This isn't just physical fatigue, it is a parasitic rot eating away at your very marrow, devastating the cells of your mind. It is that paralyzing, invisible drain you feel when you lie wide awake, staring blankly at the ceiling at 3 in the morning. The phone screen went dark hours ago, yet you lie there, paralyzed, desperately waiting. You wait for a text, a breadcrumb of attention, the tiniest, most pathetic sign proving that you actually exist in someone else's mind. And when that message never arrives, what do? You sedate yourself. You frantically invent 1,000 pathetic excuses for their profound indifference. You tell yourself they are simply busy, they are under so much pressure, you shouldn't be so demanding. You continuously butcher your own standards, chipping away at them piece by piece, until the sacred boundary of your self-respect is nothing but a layer of forgotten dust. You crawl on your hands and knees to gather the rotting, discarded scraps of affection they carelessly toss your way, and you brainwash yourself into believing you are sitting at a lavish feast. This is the horrifying, insidious devastation of what society falsely celebrates as sacrifice. You have convinced yourself that your suffering is a noble testament to your love, when in reality, it is merely the echo of your own unhealed wounds. It is the tragic manifestation of a child inside you begging to be seen, willing to pay any price, even the destruction of your own soul, just to avoid being abandoned. But the truth is, you abandoned yourself long before they ever did. Today, this sickening self-pity ends here. We are going to tear down the altar where you have been sacrificing your sanity. The genesis of the people pleaser, inheriting the curse of conditional love. To dismantle this altar of self-sacrifice, we must first unearth the shattered foundation upon which it was built, buried deep within the forgotten memories of your youth. You were not born with this pathological need to bleed for others. It was a survival mechanism meticulously programmed into you before you even possessed the vocabulary to articulate your own pain. Think back to that frightened little child you once were, navigating a world of giants. Somewhere along the line, you were implicitly taught that your natural, unedited existence was a burden. You learned the devastating lesson that love was not a birthright, but a highly conditional currency that had to be frantically earned through relentless compliance. Perhaps you were forced to be the emotional mediator for fractured, unstable adults, or maybe your worth was validated only when you were quiet, agreeable, and entirely devoid of your own needs. To survive, you became a masterful, hyper-vigilant human radar, constantly scanning the emotional weather of every room you entered. You learned to adjust your entire personality, amputating parts of your soul to ensure no one else felt inconvenienced by your presence. Your authentic voice was swallowed violently so that others could shout. This is exactly where the disease took root. You began to equate your sheer utility with your fundamental human worth. You convinced yourself that if you were just useful enough, accommodating enough, and perfect enough, they would finally have no choice but to love you. But conditional love is a cruel mirage. The absolute second you stop performing, the affection evaporates into thin air. You have carried this terrified, desperate child into an adult body, dressing up a profound trauma response in the noble disguise of deep empathy. You look in the mirror and call yourself a caretaker, a loyal partner, a devoted friend. Yet beneath the socially acceptable vocabulary, you are running a covert psychological operation, desperately trying to buy a sense of safety that you never received. You have spent decades apologizing for merely taking up oxygen, shrinking yourself into a highly convenient, malleable puzzle piece just to fit into the jagged edges of everyone else's chaotic lives. Every time you suppress a no because you fear their disappointment, you are betraying that inner child all over again. It is time to grieve the child who had to abandon themselves just to survive, because holding on to that obsolete survival strategy is precisely what is destroying your adult life today. The parasitic dance, how your endless generosity breeds your own destruction. Because you internalized this transactional love so deeply, you unknowingly transformed your adult life into a blinding beacon for those who feed on endless surrender. You attract takers, emotional black holes, and professional victims not by accident, but by profound psychological design. The universe will always send you people who perfectly mirror your own lack of boundaries. You pour your life force into these bottomless pits, arrogantly believing that your unwavering devotion can heal their dysfunction. You mistakenly believe you are their savior, when in stark reality, you are nothing more than their enabler, actively participating in a parasitic dance that drains the vitality from your veins. But here is the darkest, most uncomfortable secret of the martyr, the truth you refuse to admit even to yourself. Your endless giving is not entirely selfless. Beneath your angelic exterior boils a toxic, unacknowledged reservoir of profound resentment. You give relentlessly because you are secretly trying to control the narrative. You over-deliver with the unspoken expectation that they will eventually realize your supreme value, that they will wake up one day, overcome with gratitude, and finally reciprocate. It is a covert contract they never signed. When they inevitably fail to read your mind and refuse to give back, you retreat into the comforting, familiar role of the victim. You cry over how much you have done for them, weaponizing your own sacrifices to justify your misery. You fail to see that your generosity is actually a defense mechanism designed to keep people indebted to you. Because deep down, you are terrified that if you stop doing things for them, they will realize you have nothing else to offer and leave. This dynamic is a slow, agonizing poison. You are feeding them pieces of your own flesh, hoping they will call it a banquet, while you slowly starve to death in the corner. The people who genuinely love you do not want your blood. They want your truth. The ones who gladly accept your endless sacrifices without a second thought are not loving you. They are consuming you. They will take until there is absolutely nothing left of your spirit, and when you finally collapse from the sheer exhaustion of holding up their world, they will simply step over your exhausted body and find another host. You are constructing your own prison, brick by agonizing brick, using your own empathy as the mortar and locking yourself inside while handing them the key. The shattering, confronting the terrifying void of your own creation. Eventually, the suffocating weight of this silent, boiling resentment brings you to the inevitable precipice of a total psychological collapse. This is the shattering, the terrifying, breathtaking moment when the illusion crumbles and you are forced to stare directly into the abyss of your own creation. It happens in the quietest, most mundane moments. A brushed-off comment, an unreturned favor, or another canceled plan that finally breaks the dam, holding back years of suppressed rage and agonizing grief. The narrative you have spun for decades, that being the bigger person and enduring endless emotional abuse makes you somehow superior, collapses into dust. In this terrifying void, there are no distractions left. You look around at the life you have painstakingly built and realize with horrifying clarity that it is populated by ghosts and parasites. You have given everything you possess, emptied your soul, compromised your morals, and ignored your physical health. And what do you have to show for it? Isolation. Profound, aching isolation. You realize that your extreme goodness did not protect you from pain. It explicitly invited it. The most devastating blow is not recognizing the cruelty of others, but recognizing your own complicity in your destruction. You allowed them to walk all over you. You opened the door, invited them in, and handed them the weapon. No one forced you to betray yourself. You volunteered. Facing the mirror in this state of complete ego death is an agony unlike any other. The victimhood you clung to like a life raft is violently ripped away, leaving you entirely accountable for your own misery. There is no one left to blame. No one is coming to rescue you. No savior is riding over the hill to validate your suffering or present you with a medal for enduring the most pain. The universe does not reward unnecessary martyrdom. It simply allows you to suffer until you finally decide you have had enough. This breaking point is not a punishment. It is a profound, brutal grace. It is the necessary demolition of a fraudulent identity. Your psyche is tearing itself apart because it cannot sustain a lie any longer. The void you feel is not the end of your life. It is the clearing of the wreckage. It is the agonizing, necessary space required for the truth to finally take root in your decimated heart. The resurrection of the self, forging unbreakable boundaries from the ashes. Standing in the agonizing debris of your shattered illusions, you are finally presented with the only choice that leads to true, lasting liberation. You must commit treason against the false version of yourself you created to survive. This is the resurrection, and it begins with the terrifying, revolutionary act of discovering your own boundaries. You have to learn the word no, and you have to learn to let it stand as a complete sentence, entirely devoid of desperate justifications or frantic apologies. At first, asserting your basic human needs will feel like a criminal act. Your nervous system, conditioned for decades to appease, will scream in terror, convinced that setting a boundary will result in immediate abandonment. Do it anyway. Watch as the people in your life react. The ones who benefited most from your lack of boundaries will be furious. They will call you selfish, changed, and cold. Let them. Their anger is not a reflection of your wrongdoing. It is the dying breath of their control over you. You must let those relationships burn to the ground, stepping out of the smoke entirely unscathed. This journey requires you to forge an ironclad relationship with your own intrinsic worth, completely independent of what you can produce, fix, or provide for someone else. You must recognize that you are deeply valuable simply because you exist. The energy you spent desperately trying to heal broken people must now be redirected inward to mend the gaping wounds in your own chest. As you rebuild, you will encounter a silence that used to terrify you, but now it will become your sanctuary. You will stop waiting for a text message to validate your existence. You will stop carving pieces out of your soul to feed those who are not hungry for your love, but merely starved for your utility. The true beauty of this awakening is not just the cessation of pain, but the reclamation of your authentic power. You will walk into a room and no longer feel the frantic urge to manage the emotions of everyone in it. You will finally belong to yourself. The martyr within you is dead, buried beneath the ashes of the people-pleaser you used to be. From this day forward, you protect your peace with the ferocity of a predator, knowing that a life lived authentically, even if it disappoints others, is infinitely more beautiful than a life lived as a beautifully decorated doormat. You have finally awakened from the nightmare, and the reality you are about to build is entirely yours. And finally, conclusion. In the end, the journey of the people-pleaser is a tragic cycle of self-betrayal rooted in the desperate childhood illusion that love must be constantly earned. For decades, you traded your authentic voice for the fleeting comfort of being needed, transforming your life into a sanctuary for those who gladly consumed your energy without ever truly seeing your worth. You disguised your deep-seated fear of abandonment as noble generosity, quietly harboring resentment when your unspoken contracts went unfulfilled. But the inevitable psychological collapse, the shattering of this carefully constructed facade, is not a tragedy. It is your ultimate liberation. It forces you to confront the agonizing truth that your extreme accommodation did not buy you love, but rather profound, aching isolation. Rising from these ashes requires the radical courage to commit treason against your former survival mechanisms. By forging ironclad boundaries and reclaiming the word no, you stop bleeding for those who only value your utility. You let the anger of those who can no longer exploit you be the final confirmation of your newfound freedom. Ultimately, healing means realizing that your worth is an undeniable birthright, completely detached from what you can fix or provide. The death of the martyr gives birth to the authentic self, allowing you to build a life where you finally belong entirely to yourself, protecting your peace with unapologetic ferocity. The profound lesson: love is not a transactional currency that you must bankrupt your soul to earn, and your fundamental human worth is not measured by your utility to broken people. When you endlessly sacrifice your own needs to keep everyone else comfortable, you are not being a savior, you are enabling your own destruction. True liberation begins the exact moment you realize that when someone gets angry at you for setting a boundary, it is simply the dying breath of their control over you. Practical application for your current life. Start by practicing the revolutionary act of saying no without offering a frantic justification or a desperate apology. Let no stand as a complete sentence. The next time you are asked to take on a burden that drains your spirit, force yourself to pause before responding. Notice the terrifying, uncomfortable spike in your nervous system that begs you to immediately comply just to keep the peace. Sit in that silence, tolerate the discomfort, and choose your own well-being instead. Allow the people who benefit from your lack of boundaries to be disappointed. Let them walk away. They are simply clearing the room for relationships that love your truth rather than your convenience. Question for the community: what is one small boundary you have struggled to set in the past, but are willing to start enforcing today? Please kindly share your thoughts and experiences in the comment section below so we can all learn and draw inspiration from each other's perspectives. Also, if you found value in this video, please subscribe to the channel to support us and provide the motivation to keep creating more deep and meaningful content for you.